This is Title 18, Word Crimes. I'm Erik Arneson. On this episode, and the next several, we're departing from our usual format. But never fear, my partner in Word Crimes, Scott Detrow, will be back before you know it to read stories from the likes of Johnny Shaw, David Cranmer, and many more. For this episode, I interviewed author Rob Hart at NoirCon 2014 in Philadelphia. Rob's first novel, New York, will be available in June 2015 from Polis Books. He's written many excellent short stories which have appeared in outlets like Shotgun Honey, Needle, Thuglit, Crime Factory, and many more. Rob is also the associate publisher at MysteriousPress.com and the class director at Lit Reactor, so he wears a lot of hats. At NoirCon, a great convention, by the way, it takes place every 2 years in Philadelphia. At NoirCon, Rob and I talked about his upcoming novel, New York. Here's my interview with Rob Hart. I'm here at NoirCon 2014 talking with Rob Hart, who came down from New York City on Amtrak. How was the ride?
It was very nice. I've never taken an Amtrak train before, and I had no idea what to expect. Like, do you have to take off your shoes? Is it going to be this big security thing? And nope. Nice, simple ride.
Excellent, and my father's pension fund thanks you for the contribution as well. You are the author of a novel called New York. It's coming out next June, and can you give us a little sneak peek into what readers can expect?
Sure. New York is sort of like an origin story, and it's about a private detective before he becomes a private detective. It's this kid in his 20s who's kind of an idiot, and, you know, when you're in your 20s, you're basically a functional idiot, you know, and I say that having just gotten out of my 20s, you've got these big ideas about how the world works and right and wrong, and you're still finding yourself as a person. So he's really still trying to find his moral compass. And in the book, you know, he's not really a PI. He calls himself a blunt instrument. So, you know, someone needs something done, he goes and gets it done, and sometimes he accepts money or booze or drugs because he's comfortable operating on a barter system. And the woman he loves gets raped and killed, and he just goes off like a wrecking ball. He's like, I'm going to find the guy who did this, and I'm going to kill him because that's the right thing to do. And basically makes a complete mess of it. You know, alienating friends. He crosses a drag queen crime lord who he highlights, who he sort of moonlights for. He stumbles into like this hard-boiled role-playing game, and it basically it's just him trying to come to peace with this death. He also lost his father on 9/11, so he's got this huge well of rage inside him that he's just having a really hard time kind of controlling. So it's really him trying to grow up a little bit. And the series, it's probably going to be like 5 books, and it's going to follow this kid as he's finding his moral compass and trying to be an adult.
And obviously from the title, New York, it's set in New York. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the setting to the story?
Yeah, I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I was born there, and it's really hard to watch movies and television shows and read books by people who have never been to New York. Like, you know, when you're watching a movie and someone pulls up directly outside of where they're going and gets a parking spot, you know, little things like that. But also, there's this New York that I don't think gets shown enough, which is sort of like the normal dark part, the dumb kid in his 20s, like wandering around the East Village and getting drunk, like these little things that I saw that were part of my New York that I've never really seen portrayed before. And I just really wanted to write something about the city that I love so much, but also, you know, kind of have a love-hate relationship with. I at one time convinced myself that depending on whether or not the protagonist left New York or stayed in New York was going to be what I was going to do. That if he left, I was going to leave, because if that's how the book turned out, that's how I felt. And I ended up staying, and I won't say what he does at the end, but, well, actually, I can kind of give it away because I'm signed for a second book, and he's in Portland, Oregon, so he does leave. But, yeah, it was sort of, the book is a little cathartic for me because it's partially was me working through some of my own issues, but also, you know, working through issues with how I felt with the city.
Now, you mentioned earlier a hard-boiled role-playing game, kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons, or did you mean something different?
Yeah, it's like live-action role-playing, which is actually a real thing. There was a game in the city years ago that you would like go around to bars and like shake people down for information. And it seemed like a fun, goofy thing. The idea for the series is that each book kind of riffs on a different crime genre. So the first novel is like hard-boiled. The second one is going to be like a Western, but kind of like how Roadhouse is a Western. Like stranger comes to town and like cleans up a corrupt system. The third one deals with eco-terrorism. The fourth one is like a spy novel. So it was a way for me to sort of lean into this genre and do it in a contemporary setting, but in a way that I hope isn't too overdone or too, I don't know what the right word is for. But it was fun to play in that, to kind of play with the tropes and try to look at them from a different angle. And it kind of is a good jumping off point for, I think, then using different genres in the following books.
And you've talked about the themes for or what you're exploring in each of the first 4 books. So that means they're completely written. You're just relaxing and
God, no. The second book, I did like a marathon writing session. My wife she had school and she had work one weekend, and I was by myself, and I was like, I'm just gonna nail this thing out. I think I wrote 30,000 words in one weekend, which by the end of it was just completely tapped. But the second draft is finished. I'm working on edits right now. It's due in February. I've got a baby due in January, so I don't know if I'm actually gonna, my plan was to have the book done by December. I don't know if that's gonna happen now, but we'll see. So yeah, it's the next 3 I have mostly mapped out. I know where it's going to go, and I know how it's going to end. So at this point, it's kind of just getting there.
And so next year's shaping up to be pretty big. Baby due in January, second book due to the publisher in February, first book is actually launching in June of next year.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very busy year, but it's nice to have that 6-month buffer between the book and the baby, because then, 6 months later, the baby is going to be hopefully a little bit easier to deal with when it comes time for me to jump out to maybe go visit some bookstores or to do events and stuff. I'm just imagining we're going to do our launch party at the Mysterious Bookshop, which is where my office is, because I'm the associate publisher of MysteriousPress.com, and it's going to be fun doing that with a baby there. We're going to see how that works out. I think that what we'll do is we'll have the baby come in with my wife, and then my parents or her parents can take the baby away, and then we will go out and get loaded, and I won't feel bad about it.
Very good. Well, I hope I get an invitation to the book launch, and
Absolutely.
Plan to see you there. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes to talk with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That was Rob Hart talking about his novel, New Yorked. You can learn more about Rob at his website, robwhart.com. That's robwhart.com. He's also active on Twitter and Facebook, so you can find him there. And that's all for this episode of Title 18 Word Crimes. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. You can find me at erikarneson.com. That's ERIKARNESON.com. I'm also at Erik Arneson on Twitter, easy to find on Facebook. Every episode of the Word Crimes podcast is archived at erikarneson.com. Check out the page for this episode to find a link to Rob Hart's website and much more. The music on this episode is by The Throws. You can find them at The Throws, THROES, thethrows.com. Thanks again for listening to Title 18 Word Crimes. We'll be back soon.